Adam, over time, you've been in Bitcoin a long time. You've probably had a number of people say to you, well, what is Bitcoin? Or why should I care? Why should I buy it? How has your explanation evolved over time from discussing what Bitcoin is as a technology versus talking about what Bitcoin is as a mission?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at, Bitcoin does lots of things, and so different people can be interested for different use cases or come into it via different paths, but ultimately, there's some differentiated properties of Bitcoin where financial institutions ultimately can't compete. And the reason they can't compete is regulatory reasons, right? So, Bitcoin is permissionless, and banks have to ask for identifying information, your utility bill, your passport, that kind of thing, right? And so with Bitcoin, you can just install an app on a smartphone and receive money with no permission and do that globally. And there's no way banks can do that. They're just prevented from doing it. And also their cost structure is very high. They've got lots of employees, lots of costs for lawyers to work with regulators and so on. So the cost structure is better as well. And so then, Bitcoin is both this kind of permissionless internet global money, and then you see the investment phenomenon where people are buying it as an investment. And I think the reason for that is that, even for people who don't have a pressing day-to-day need for Bitcoin, like, they're not being censored, they are, they're not experiencing high inflation at the time, they nevertheless see that there's a rapidly growing market and demand from other people, and so they'll believe in that adoption, and then they'll buy it as an investment. You can think about that as like, during the early internet, people would, there weren't many applications, it wasn't very exciting, but they could see that other people were excited, so they'd buy stocks in internet companies. Now, there was no way to buy, a Bitcoin that represented the internet. You have to buy stocks in companies building routers or ISPs and things like that. But with Bitcoin, there is a native asset. And so I think that's why people invest in it. And of course, because it's, like any technology that's in early stages, like, originally there were very few people on the internet, and, it goes over a period of 20 years from like a few thousand people at universities to billions, the adoption is going to be volatile, And so I think it's risky for people to kind of, get an emotional roller coaster and panic sell or feel like they've missed out and not buy back and stuff like that. So, I think a good way to think about it is just look at it from a longer term. So there's a statistic which is the 200-week moving average. So basically average Bitcoin price over 4 years approximately. And if you look at that, it only goes up. It goes up slowly, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. And if you just use that as your benchmark, that's what Bitcoin is worth. And then if it's worth a lot more than that, you can just think, well, it's a short-term volatility, and then not panic if it falls. And the current 200-week moving average is around $22,000, $23,000. So the base price is close to it, which says it's it's probably undervalued. But if you keep that as your mental model of what the kind of dependable price is, then you won't get over enthusiastic about high prices or depressed about low prices.